Hey guys, Sean Bucci, surplusfundsriches.net. If somebody can let me know you can hear and see me okay, that would be great. I'm in here a little bit early, but we've got a couple of folks in here. Please use the chat section. Please do not use the Q&A section. Use the chat section. And all messages will be private, but I'll get them and I'll mention your name whenever I answer them. Let's take a look here at chat. Also, guys, you can probably see it, but there is a staple icon that's for a file, and that is a download that you can get, especially if you have not come on board with us. You're going to want to read through that. It's an overview of all of our different programs. I apologize. This may be an interesting webinar. We have a new puppy that is playing hard with our existing girl, and anyway, she's wild dogging right now, but that is Hazel. Anyway, and Bella's jealous as can be. So I'm going to put her down. They might tear it up a little bit in the background. Please ignore that. I'm getting, okay, I got Chasha, can hear and see you fine. Cherie, I can hear and see you okay. Donna says, hi, Sean, loud and clear. Joan, yes, can see and hear. Philippe, good evening. Don says, good evening. Cheryl Williams, hi, Sean. And Jeff. And Philippe says, cute puppy, thank you. She's 3.5 pounds of hellion, I'll tell you that. Not a whole lot of announcements. A lot of you guys probably watch our, they're going nuts, sorry. Our ancillary videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, Surplus Funds Riches, all one word. Thank you, Lori. All one word. We did change out. We put a pause on Arkansas, but we also opened up Oregon and Washington State. That's a big deal. And we already got some stuff turned in from Washington, so that's good. Looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Lillian says, Duchess says, good evening. Thank you. Reminder again, guys, please use chat, not Q&A. Any and all questions are fine. And Jeff says, download the webinar handout. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Jeff does this a lot. Well, I screw it up for Jeff when he does this, but download the webinar handout. Included is a $50 off program voucher good through this weekend. So I believe what that means is it's $50 off. Jeff, you can correct me if I'm wrong. He's in the background. He's the moderator. I believe that's $50 off any other purchase in the future. Guys, it's a big deal because we're already a little too underpriced right now. And I've been pushing Jeff to go up on that quite a bit. So if you haven't said thank you to Jeff, he's the reason why all your programs and bundles have not gone up in price. Sean says, good evening. Good evening, Sean. Like I said, guys, not a whole lot of announcements other than the state changes we took. We put a pause on Arkansas, but we opened up Oregon and Washington State. Had a lot of great, my goodness, this week, in this last week alone, a little over $260,000 in checks came in, which is fantastic. I've already sent one check out. I'm waiting on the checks to actually roll through the account. In other words, to clear from the attorney. And then I'll be sending quite a few out too. And I've notified you guys, those guys that have checks coming. Also, make sure on the YouTube channel, Surplus Funds Riches, all one word, make sure you check that for deals board updates or board updates. We just did one, I believe on the 5th. Might have been a little later than that, but check that. And I would definitely just keep track of that, guys. Keep track of when we're doing that. Also, Philippe, I think you're the Philippe. We do have the property on the market. If you're Philippe M, in Woodland, North Carolina, we'll see how that pans out. There was a lot more wrong with that than I could see when I bought it. This is for our flipping program. A lot more wrong with it than I could see because there was trash up to my waist and I took a little bit of a risk, but we'll see what the margin is when all is said and done. Any and all questions, guys, are welcome. Any and all questions, fire away. Let me know. I can answer anything you've got. And Philippe says, yes, that's me. That's great. Just so you know, Philippe, I'll keep you up to speed on that in these webinars. Typically with the flips, it doesn't take more than a month from when I put it on the market to actually close on it because I am aggressive in pricing. And like in this instance, I actually had an attorney, not an attorney, a realtor signed up to list it for me. I usually do flat fee listings because I am a licensed broker in North Carolina. I kind of know what I'm doing, buying and selling property for the most part. So I typically don't have an issue with just flat fee listings. But in this instance, I hired a guy because it's on the other side of the state and I needed his input, and he had a lot of experience selling this type of home. Give me a second. Anyway, any and all questions, guys, are great. I know I've had a couple to come in on YouTube and some other channels. The main one being, what's the difference between the different programs? This is for those of you guys that haven't come on board. And if you're in that boat, definitely go to surplusfundsriches.net and click on products, sign in, and there's an insider's guide, which is going to be with the file download here. There's an insider's guide on there that you guys can use, to see what the different programs are. It's a good breakdown of everything. Also on that site, surplusfundsriches.net, hour-long free video training showing you how to do it on your own, or of course, it'll break it down on what you would do if you were actually partnering up with us. That's good to watch, even for seasons. I've had a bunch of seasoned veteran guys say, hey, you know what? That was a great refresher, and I'm glad I looked at that. There's even a couple of free lists on there that you guys can access. Obviously, there's going to be worked a little more than the ones that we teach how to get on your own, but there are some free lists on there, and happy to provide that for you guys. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Suzanne, that's fantastic. That's a great question. I haven't had that in forever. So our question is, what do we need to know about UCC finance statements? I've seen some, but they have no amounts on them. Okay. So UCC is Uniform Commercial Code. Typically, they do this against businesses, LLCs, and sometimes against individuals that are sole proprietorships. But what it is, it's another way to basically plant the flag and say, hey, this guy owes me money. His business got something on credit, and I'm just putting it out there that he owes me money. I have a finance agreement in place. But I wanted to also put this on, typically they're on the Secretary of State's website. And you'll see that from time to time where it's actually referenced online in another spot. Secretary of State for that state, the Secretary of State website, typically will give you more information online. Not always. Sometimes they're not going to give you dollar amounts. You see this a lot also with solar panel companies. They'll put UCC claims on Secretary of State. It's a second way for them to make a claim. Not really a judgment. It's just a kind of an announcement of debt. That's a secondary way to do that. Those of you guys are real estate agents, if you ever took commission advances, if there was a commission advance company around near you, you probably didn't even realize it, but you signed off that they would also put a UCC filing on the Secretary of State as kind of a way to plant the flag and let everybody know that, hey, we've got a claim to this guy. And of course, it starts the clock. It's not the same as a judgment, okay? But it's showing, hey, we've had this in place since this point in time. They still, if somebody defaults, they still have to get a judgment or lien against the individual, but it's a great heads up that there may be additional debt. Sorry, guys. The flips usually take about 30 days for you. You were talking about NC Flipmaster. That one was, Don, but I said it's typically 30 days from when, after I bought the property, recorded the deed, paid off the taxes or mortgage to stop the foreclosure, paid the owner and got it on the market. And sometimes there's a delay there because I let the owner stay in the property a month or two to get their stuff together. That's part of our negotiation sometimes. But at that point, when I put it on the market, it's typically sold within 30 days after that. And I just put that property I was talking to Philippe about on the market. But it's true of Florida, National Deed Flip, NC Flipmaster, all of them. It moves quickly, guys, because I buy the junk, okay? Yes, Jeff said the same thing. Pool loan companies also file a UCC. You're going to see that a lot for that. Again, realtors that took a commission advance, there's a UCC filed. You're going to see pool loans. You're going to see solar panel companies put UCC filings in the Secretary of State as kind of a way of planting the flag and letting people know that, hey, this guy owes me money. Ashley, I'm having trouble finding the property address. How to find it? Ashley, the property address of what? Are you talking about surplus funds where you're getting a list that doesn't have a property address on it? And Don says, okay, thank you. Lori, agreement number 4, do not leave blank. Need an address or legal. It should be if land. What are you trying to say here definitively? Will ward, section, block, lot description do for vacant lot? The thing that's easy to use is legal description, Lori. And there's going to be a shortened legal description. One of the steps you take in the program is you're going to open up the tax assessor's office information on that property, and there will be a shortened legal description in there. Use that if you don't have a street address. That's probably the best one to use, just so we've got an easy way to follow that. Plus, if you don't have an address, you're going to need the legal, just so you know that when you look up that person's name, sorry, I got to check on these docs. When you look up that person's name, you want to make sure that you're looking at an address, the right property. So the legal description won't change. And that legal description is a way to find out, okay, this is the actual property that got foreclosed on. So legal description if you don't have an address, please. Actually, it says surplus. I'm having trouble finding the property address, how to find it. So what I'm assuming you're saying, Ashley, I'm going to need you to get back to me here. I'm assuming you're saying that you've got a list generated from somebody that has surplus funds on it and maybe the name of the owner, but you don't have a street address. Is that correct? And Lori says, okay, thank you. You got it, Lori. It's pretty easy to do, Lori. That's typically a shortened legal. And that'll help you quite a bit. And again, you're going to need that in order to search that. Waiting for Ashley to get back to me here. The question was, I'm having trouble finding the property address. How do you find it? Okay, she says yes. All right, so Ashley, if that's what you've got, it's going to have a PIN number on it. Okay, that's a property ID number or a PID, property ID. Either way, you can search typically one of two ways. You can search that PIN, parcel ID, or property ID number, or PID. It's listed either way. You can search that through the tax rolls often, the tax assessor's office. You can look it up by that, and it'll give you the associated address if there is one. Okay. If it's vacant land, it won't, but that's fine if it's vacant. But it'll give you the address that way. Another way is to plug in, other than the tax assessor's office, plug in county name, state name. Like for instance, I'm in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. So Mecklenburg, NC, and then I would plug in GIS, all one word, no blanks. Okay, geographic information system or geospatial information system. Anyway, it's GIS. If you plug that in, you'll be able to search by that, and it'll give you the ability to search by owner name, parcel IDs, a number of different ways to search. I actually use that quite a bit when I'm looking at property that I'm going to flip, because it'll usually give me a really fast link, even faster than going straight through the tax assessor's office to the tax card, the tax information on the property. And almost all counties have a GIS system associated with them. Rachel. Hi, Sean. I had a lien the other day that said it was the United States of America and another lien for the state of Missouri. Do you see those often? I haven't seen that before. Oh, yeah. United States of America is an IRS tax lien, okay? 99% of the time. There can be other funky ones, but 99% of the time, IRS tax lien. Can also be U.S. Treasury, but usually it's United States of America. State of MO, state of Missouri, you're looking at a state income tax lien, so they didn't pay either one. So that does happen. Typically, if you found that, it'll tell you the dollar amount. And most tax liens, Jeff, please jump in and tell me if I'm wrong here, but it's my understanding, as far as the IRS, federal tax liens last 10 years and then expire, and that's it. State can vary from state to state, and you can look that up very easily. Missouri expiration date for state income tax liens, and that'll tell you that, okay? Sometimes it's something else, like Missouri, that could have been the state versus there could have been a criminal issue. But given the fact that it says U.S., United States of America, and them, and they both have liens, I would assume it's taxes. Actually, the list I have is case or document number. Never seen that ever before, Ashley. Now, having said that, yeah, Jeff's with me. IRS is 10 years. State does vary. Okay. The list I have has case or document number. All right. Case number, you're going to have to be able to search cases online in order to use that as a reference, obviously. Okay. Document number can be an actual, some states, instead of using book and page, if they're referencing a document number for recording of deeds and other items in the court, they'll use a document number or they use an instrument number, and you'll have to plug that in. The easiest answer to your question is what you're not going to want to hear, but it's the easiest and it's the way to get the most accurate information. Whoever created that list you have, it should say, or you should have known where you pulled it up, okay? Sheriff's Department, county clerk, whatever. Whoever did that, call them and go, hey, how do I plug this in and get more information about this case? I know this sounds crazy. Everybody's so scared to call the court or the sheriff or whatever. Call them. They're your best source for information. Sorry, guys, we're getting a little one. I'm sorry. Next time, the puppies will not be with me. I'll have my girlfriend handle that. But for now, let's just keep an eye on her while they're arguing. Yeah, you're going to see that a lot, though, more often than you think with the IRS tax liens and the state income tax liens. They're just going to happen. Again, it does vary by state as far as how long they last. IRS is typically 10 years. If I'm being thorough or really going into detail on that, it can go beyond 10 years, the IRS. But that, in order to do that, they have to re-up it. I've seen some kind of really wild stuff with it before. The wildest thing I've ever seen is there was an IRS tax lien. It said it was an IRS tax lien, but then it actually said on it that the person was found guilty, not convicted, okay, found guilty of aiding and abetting terrorists. And as a result, they were putting $1 million IRS tax lien against this guy. He was a doctor. So the guy was allowed to keep his medical practice, but they slapped $1 million fine on him for him to pay off. And I'm sure they're going to just keep, that's one I'm sure will get re-upped every 10 years forever. The IRS doesn't necessarily fall under any rules from anybody else. These have been good questions, guys. Keep them coming. I've never seen a list, though, I must tell you, Ashley, where it was just a case or document number. I've been calling sheriff and tax office asking for surplus or excess funds lists, and they have no clue what I'm talking about. The sheriff told me to go to auction.com. All right, actually, what I was saying is, where did you get the list you have? That provider, because obviously you got a list from somewhere, right? So call whoever created that list. If it was on the sheriff's site, whatever, you go, hey, I've got a list right in front of me. Or even do this. Hey, let me get your email address. Let me send you what I'm talking about. See if you can figure out what I'm talking about. My concern is you don't have a surplus funds list. The list may actually say excess proceeds or surplus funds, or it might not. I'm seeing, guys, remember, please use chat, not Q&A. I'm seeing a Q&A from Jen. I'm going to go ahead and answer this one. This is going to be the last one I go to Q&A for. I know it's a Q&A webinar, so certainly we should use that, but no, we're using comments. All right. Question from Jen. Original deed listed 2 owners with joint rights of survivorship. Awesome. Owner number 1, before they died, transferred the deed via quitclaim deed to a new person without owner number 2's signature or knowledge. That is completely legal. Each person has a 50% interest in that property. I know it's 100%. It's funky. There's still a 50% interest in that property. They can still transfer their side of that deed to somebody else. Just, I think that's probably answered your question already, but let's go with it, okay? Owner number two signature, yeah, without owner number two. Property foreclosed in Florida, spoke with owner number two, who said he didn't know the person who the deed was transferred to, but found out it was owner number one's neighbor. Who should receive surplus? It's two people on the deed. It's a 50-50 split. Owner number one transferred his right to that person number three. So now it's number two and number three. It's that simple. Number one quitclaimed his interest. Guys, who are the deed holders at the time of the sale? In this instance, one of those deed holders gave up their half to somebody else. They don't need the okay from the other person on the deed to transfer their portion of interest in that property. Okay? Two people, each one can transfer their interest to whoever the heck they want. Now, just so you know, in an instance like that, the joint tenants with rights survivorship clause is destroyed. It's just joint tenants. I mean, they have 50% interest, okay? But now, if owner number two died, it's not going to go to owner number three. That was transferred from owner number one, if you follow me. But you can still give up your interest in the deed. You can still do that. And if you look at the deed that transferred the interest, if it was a really creative attorney, they may have been able to keep that joint tenants with rights survivorship alive. I've seen crazier stuff. Good question, Jen. I'm glad I checked Q&A. All right, chat. Ashley says, thanks. Yeah, Jeff agrees with me 100%. The IRS, guys, is a 10-year lien. Excuse me. I'm going to bring up a mouse without. Unless you're super rich, and then they'll re-up that lien. Most folks who are foreclosed on are not in that group. They're not super rich. And that's a really good point, Jeff. Yeah, they're not going to lose a property over $200,000 if they're super rich. It's just not going to happen. So that IRS tax lien is going to expire. They're not coming after that guy that hard and heavy. Obviously, it looks at dollar amount too, but you're not going to find guys hitting the dollar amount level that's going to create an interest from the IRS to go after them more than 10 years. Just not. One other thing I want to bring up, because some of you guys are on here doing deed flips or are interested in that, flipping property. We had a deal not far from here, 2 hours from here. Actually, about an hour and a half. We had a deal where at the last minute, I was gonna buy the property from the guy by recording his deed, paying off the taxes, and then paying him money and then flipping the property. And I was going to give him 20 grand. There was about 10,000 in taxes. No, there's 5,000 in taxes. I was going to give him 20 after I recorded the deed. I always, when I have a deed recorded, I always have either in person or have somebody else double check that. The IRS I had missed an IRS tax lien, or rather the person that sent the property in for us to flip had missed that IRS tax lien, or just couldn't see it. We found it was like a $50,000, $60,000 IRS tax lien. I was going to pay the owner like 20 grand. I called him and said, hey, his name happened to be Jeff. Jeff, I'm not giving you 20 grand. There's a $50,000 IRS tax lien. It's going to expire in 6 months, but that means I'm going to have to cut the yard for 6 months, and I'm going to have to board it out until that falls off. And anyway, he agreed. I gave him 5, paid off 5 in taxes, so I had 10 into it. Went up, boarded up the property, had to take a bunch of stuff out of it because there was a squatter in there using a car battery to power lights and some other crazy crap. Nicely put that outside of the property, so because I didn't want to create any animosity. Like, here you go. It was all bagged up for the person. They didn't try to get back in. It was great. Had to wait until the IRS tax lien fell off, and then I was able to sell the property. We would not have sold. It would have been caught when the person tried to close, and if it had still been enforced, it would have had to been paid off in order for me to transfer it. So I had to wait 6 months on that. But knowing things like how long IRS tax liens last and whether or not they're going to be re-upped, that's a big deal in flipping and in surplus funds. And that joint tenants with rights survivorship, that was a great question, Jen. That was a fantastic question. But you have to understand how it works. People can still move or sell their interest when they're a partial owner in a deed. They don't need the other person. Now, having said that, husband, if it was a sale through an attorney, the adage that realtors use, one to buy, two to sell. Only one person has to be on the loan, but it's two people if they're both on the deed that have to sell it. Well, that's if selling the property in full. That person was transferring their half interest in that property. And you can buy interest portions of a property. And the way it'll work is simple. Number of people on the deed, that's the percentage. In other words, 5 people, it's 20% each, right? 10 people, it's 10% each. 4 people, it's 25, unless it specifies otherwise. And you need to watch that because it can specify John Thomas, 25% interest. Larry Moore, 50% interest. Okay. Bobby Green, 25% interest. It can specify different interests. If it does not, it's the number of people on that deed. It's that percentage, 1/3, 1/5, however many people are there. That's how many people are entitled that's how to determine the percentage ownership from each person. Now, another thing you need to see here. Guys, if you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, you're not going to see this stuff that I talk about, like the file download and all that. That's only for folks that are live. But I'll try to put this in the description when I upload this for the replay on YouTube. It's surplusfundslists.com. These are lists that Jeff's curated. I don't know how, I'm not sure he's even sure how often he's going to put a new batch up there, but there's a lot on there right now, and it's really cheap pricing. I believe, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 60 or 62 lists for $39.97 or something like that. And these are real lists. These aren't estimated lists. These are lists that he put together, found online, using, by the way, the same techniques we teach you in the ebook. But I know people they would rather pay than look, and that's fine. Surplusfundslists.com. We started doing that. Just it's another way for people to find lists, and I hope that it helps you guys out. It looks like maybe, and Jeff's probably going to get back to me on that. He may have, 62 lists for $39. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Surplusfundslists.com. I'll try to put the link in the description or comment section when I load the video up online. And guys, this has been good. Not a whole lot of questions tonight, slower than normal, but at the same time, really good ones. Deeds, always read the deed. It's funny, if you were to talk to my crew, I've trained all of them. Many of them have been with me for years. They'll come up with a question on a file, and they'll literally have the file up, because we have physical files as well as everything entered into our CRM. But we have the actual physical files with copies of things because they know I'm old and I need that. And they will literally come up to me. Oh, good. Jeff shut down the chat. They'll literally come up to me with the deed on top and go, I know, read the deed, read the deed, read the deed. Okay. So I still have a question even after reading the deed, but it does answer 99% of your questions, guys. That's why you have to research debt. That's why you have to research ownership. Jen, if she had gone by what she thought, she would have thought that transfer from that one owner to the other person was not legal because it didn't have the second owner's signature on it, right? So she would have still gone for those two people. No. Last owners, time of sale. That's it. And I probably made you some money tonight, Jen. You're welcome. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Jeff shut down the comment section. I very much appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We have these twice a month, so look for that. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's ridiculous how much content we put up there. Surplus Funds Riches is the YouTube channel. I appreciate everybody coming out, and I hope you have a great night. Thanks, guys.